audience, whatever you think is wrong with you, at some point served a purpose. So for Christina, at some point, disconnecting from her gut feelings served the purpose of being accepted by the people that she had to be accepted by. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a moral failure. It was an adaptation. The problem is that these early adaptations then become ingrained, and that which was helpful in one situation becomes a limitation in another situation. But asking ourselves the right questions will get us back to source. If I may mention, I'm wearing this bracelet here, and I was given this in my Hawaii, which is people in British Columbia know that it's a beautiful set of islands in the north of our province, where indigenous people have lived for something like 10 or 12,000 years, and then it was colonized, and they were treated terribly. And I gave a trauma workshop up there a year and a half ago, and an elderly woman came up to me, and I've told this story before. She was so ashamed of herself because she forgot her native tribal national language. I said, well, what happened to you? And I was given this bracelet at that workshop. And what happened was she went to residential school where indigenous people had to surrender their children to the state and to the church. She made the mistake of speaking her native tongue, at which point they took a stake and they beat her. Her forgetting her language at that point saved her life. And then she was ashamed. I didn't fight back. I said, okay, you were 5 years old. Could you escape? No. Could you ask for help? No. What would happen if you fought back? They might kill me. So not fighting back, what she's judging herself as cowardice was actually the organism's wisdom to save her life. And what I'm saying is that all these things in ourselves, that's an extreme example, but all these things in ourselves that we berate ourselves for, judge ourselves for, criticize ourselves for, they began as adaptations. We need to be very kind to ourselves. And that's what I'm saying, compassion and inquiry. There's a spiritual teacher who says that only when compassion is present will people allow themselves to see the truth. Well, that compassion needs to be extended to ourselves, and then we can extend it to others as well.
It's so, it's so powerful for me to hear that from you, because I think we're so good at saying, oh God, the last 3 years were just a waste of time, but now I figured it out.
Yeah.
You know, on that job that I was in 10 years ago, I should have left it earlier. You know, that relationship, we're so good at berating, as you said, and you said, oh, that was a waste of time, and it's almost like, oh, no. Yeah. It wasn't ideal, it wasn't helpful, it wasn't easy, it wasn't comfortable, it wasn't nice, but it's aided you, it's helped you, it's served you, and you're so right that.
Well, you know, the great German philosopher Nietzsche, he said once that I'm paraphrasing him, but he said, we talk about these dead ends that we went down. He said, there are no dead ends. We just found out that that wasn't the way to go. So we didn't waste any time. Thomas Edison was once asked, what did it feel like to learn to have failed 1,999 times to build a light bulb until you finally got it? And he said, I didn't fail 1,999 times to build a light bulb. I found out that there was 1,999 ways not to build a light bulb. And so much for our dead ends and our mistakes and all these things that we have to do it to find out our reality. That's all.
I wanted to give you all an opportunity this evening to ask questions to Dr. Gabomate, as we have him here for the last few moments. If you would like to ask a question, I'm going to come out to the audience and hand you a mic. So raise your hands, and I'm going to come and find you. So, keep the praise up. Should I take your little microphone as well? Will you work at that distance? Yes, I'll give you. I want to try and get to as many questions as I can, so when I hand it to you, please briefly ask your question.
Please hold the mic right close to you.
When you were talking about the no, teaching kids no, I was thinking about
Teaching kids, no?
well, teaching kids not to say, be able to express themselves and say no.
Right.
So what about, well, from my experience, I have found that even as an adult, in my experience of working with many different people in marketing and business, and when you say no to someone right away, whether you have a reason to, people abruptly shut down. They don't hear what comes after the no. So what I've been doing with my children, I'm also a school counselor, so I talk about diplomatically saying no, saying like just that pause moment for you to share your no without saying no right away. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, Eckhart Tolle was another Vancouver-based teacher, internationally very well known, I'm sure very well known to this audience. He talks about a high quality no. It's kind of an automatic, resentful, reactive no, which doesn't get across, it just creates more resistance. Or there's a high quality no, where you're really honoring yourself and you're not making the other person wrong. You're just saying, no, that does not work for me, and I will not do that. And if you can't accept that, it's not my problem. I don't know if that answers the question.
Thank you so much.
Mom just did that to me. I did not
And
receive
by the way, I thought I heard you say that you had cancer or something.
I wouldn't be either.
Remind you, not, that's one of your budget ways to say no, is to the illness. And when I see that all
So my question is, as an Indigenous person, years now I'm going to residential school. As I get more serious with my partner, talk about children, how do I know if I'm healed enough to not pass on that trauma?
well, some friends of mine who made a film about my work with the wisdom of trauma are just releasing a film this month. It's called The Eternal Song, and it's about indigenous wisdom around the world. And they came to Hawaii, they came to northern British Columbia, Africa, South America, Australia, New Zealand. They spoke everywhere to indigenous people. And the eternal song, the universal message everywhere is about the importance of learning from the heart and unity with nature, unity with the whole world. And when I speak in indigenous communities here in Canada, what I stress is that your own traditions, that they try to kill English. And you know, one Canadian politician said about the residential schools that the intention is to drive the Indian out of the Indian. So when you ask me how to not to pass it along to your kids, I say first of all, as I said before, work on your own trauma, but also as much as possible connect with that deep wisdom in your own traditions that will be so beneficial, not just for your people, but for the whole society. And it's one of the tragedies of modern civilization. I just did a speaking tour in Australia. In Australia, they've been indigenous people for 60,000 years, a continuous culture, 60,000 years. Canada is not 200 years old yet.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think in 60,000 years they might have learned a few things? Do you think in 60,000 years there, over there, or your people here might have learned a few things that would be worthwhile for the rest of us to learn? So what I'm saying respectfully in response to your question is, deal with your traumas, work with them through, but also go back to your own wisdom, because there's so much there that is healing. unity, the chanting, the drumming, the dancing,
Nature, natural remedies.
the sun dancing, the cedar brushing, what do you call it, the song that
Sage.
certain plants, the sweat lodges. There's so much there. So